Hello. I'm Hugh Hewitt. It's Friday, and there's a lot of news, and I want to get to the key thing for you is the appointment of David Sachs, about whom you might not know anything. But I'll tell you about David Sachs because your world will be shaped by artificial intelligence, your world going forward. It's even now undergoing a revolution, which is why I've sold all my Palantir because I'm going to interview some Palantir people. I didn't want a conflict. I've sold all my Amazon. All I've got left is Microsoft and mutual funds. So I have no dog in this fight. But artificial intelligence is going to change everything. And right now we've got law professors regulating it like Lena Khan. And Donald Trump has gone out and picked David Sachs to come in and be the AI czar. David Sachs has been a guest on this program before. Hawks won't like him on those issues, but he's very personable and very smart, and he will know AI. And I have been reflecting on the difference between Donald Trump filling up with all this big tech entrepreneurial talent. You start with Elon Musk and you add in Vivek Ramaswamy, then you go get Doug Burgum, who's Silicon Valley, then you add in David Sachs. And already your talent level has gone off the charts compared to Team Biden and the hapless Pete Buttigieg, and then can you name anybody else? And they're not afraid. It's the old A's hire A's, D's hire E's, or F's. And it's on full display right now with Donald Trump's ongoing appointment. Pete Hegseth is doing fine, by the way. Do not buy into the attempt to assassinate Pete online. That's not happening. He's doing exactly what nominees have to do, which is fight back and fight hard. And I thought the endorsement by Senator Kramer yesterday was a very strong one. And we'll continue to see how that plays out over the weekend. But I'm feeling very confident about Pete right now. Wasn't at the beginning of the week, but I was gone. I couldn't really read all night long about what's going on. The rest of the nominees are great. Kosh is going to get confirmed. Kosh Patel is going, and I do not know either of these guys except to say hello to Pete on the air. I have no dog in this hunt. Don't want any job. Don't need anything. However, we need the Pentagon to work and the FBI to be overhauled. We need both of those things to happen. I'm very happy with both nominees, but I'm excited about the David Sachs nomination announced by the president on Truth Social last night, President-elect, because Sachs brings another big tech person. It's sort of New Dealer kind of stuff. When FDR blew into town in 1932 in the middle of a depression, he just basically brought every smart person he could, but he bought them from Harvard and Yale and the Ivy Leagues, and they aren't really smart people, they're academics. And academics are different from entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs fix things. Entrepreneurs start things. Entrepreneurs turn things around, and we can't have enough of them. It's great news. There's some not so great news. Let me start with the bulletin. You know, I'm a sucker for a pandemic story. Patient in isolation at University Hospital St. John Medical Center in Westlake, Ohio, after arriving from Tanzania with flu-like symptoms. Now, I don't know why Cleveland.com decided a patient with the flu needed a front page story, but it's there, and I always try and let you. I'm first to the goal line with, oh, really, another one? And we've done this drill in the 25 years of this show. We've done this drill 4 or 5 times. One time it became COVID. One time it became Ebola, but that was cabined, and the other ones didn't become anything. But we'll keep an eye on it. Number 2, in Syria. Yeah, I don't have a scorecard, so I can't tell you who the players are. I think ISIS is marching on. They began Aleppo. They got all of Aleppo sealed up. Then they went down to Hama. They got Hama. Now they're headed to Homs, and below Homs is Aleppo. And the Times of Israel has a story this morning. Syrian rebels take Hama. Israel preparing for possible change of regime. Now I have no idea. I listened to Dan Senor yesterday on Call Me Back. And someone really needs to explain this from the perspective of our allies in the region. Now, Turkey is an ally. Israel is very much an ally. Now, Israel and Turkey don't like each other. But what does the UAE think about this? They are Sunni radicals, right, going down to take out the Alawite Assad dictatorship. And the Syrian civil war murdered 500,000 people, displaced 2 million people. Syria is still recovering, and the Kurds are over on the eastern part of the country. They're our friends. Turkey is kind of tied in with this ISIS group that's marching down the highway to Damascus. and I don't know. I do know this. Last night in Australia, a synagogue was burned down in Melbourne. And I do think big things are going on unleashed by the barbarism of 10/7, the repercussions of which continue to wash across the world. Russia is with its back against the wall in Syria as well as fully committed in Ukraine. And weird stuff is going on in South Korea where the martial law, not martial law period is going to end up with the impeachment of their president. But there's weird stuff going on in the DMZ. The next 50 days. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's asleep in Angola, and everyone saw the picture. Let me also comment on the murder of Mr. Thompson, Brian Thompson, in New York City. I've walked by that hotel 100 times. It's on the way to 30 Rock when I would stay in Midtown and go there. Usually early in the morning for Morning Joe. Right, that's when I used to do Morning Joe back in my NBC days. And I always felt the safest that New York is of course in the hours before it wakes up. After it's been out partying, it's just like completely boring and stone cold dead. And so this fellow walks up and executes Mr. Thompson. And the reaction online is deeply ill. People who take joy in the assassination of someone because he happens to be a healthcare executive, it could be Russian bots. It could be Chinese communist bots. I don't know. I never read the comments on any column I write. But it's been pretty sick. Very, very ill. The New York Times, a torrent of anger for health insurance industry follows CEO's killing. There are a few people who put their names on this crank stuff. And those people are cranks. And by the way, perfectly acceptable to dance on the grave of a father and a good guy by all accounts. Under the First Amendment, you can do that. But God have mercy on your soul when you show up at the gates. Online sleuths are trying to catch the United Healthcare CEO's killer. It's not a paid assassin. As the police are out there saying, there aren't professional hitmen. That doesn't exist. There are mob guys who do wet work. There are spies who do wet work. This is not a professional hitman. How do I know that? New York Post story this morning. They've tracked him to Atlanta where he came to New York on a bus. So they'll find the guy eventually. And eventually it will turn out to be someone, it looks like someone who will be upset by a family member's care or lack of care. That's what the guess is. Could also just turn out to be a left-wing nutter. Because right-wing nutters don't assassinate healthcare executives on the streets of New York in the middle of the night or the early morning. It's not the middle of the night. They just don't do that. All right, coming up today, I have Ben Domenech for Week in Review. We'll talk about Pete Hegseth. We'll talk about David Sachs. I'm going to play you a little bit of my David Sachs interview from last year because Ben Domenech will be along for the Week in Review. In the meanwhile, Pete Hegseth says cut number 3.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to relay that it has been a great week. It's been a great day. Great day yesterday. On the Hill meeting with senators, earning every vote. Have a great deal of respect for this process. Advice and counsel have gotten great advice. We don't take anything for granted. The conversations have been robust, candid at times, with great questions on policy, personality, everything. So we're going to earn those votes. We're fighting all the way through the tape. We're grateful to have the president's support because his vision for this Department of Defense is to bring it back to its core capacity of deterring our enemies and, if necessary, defeating those enemies. And that means ultimately putting war fighting at the middle of what the Pentagon does. No more social justice, politically correct approaches to how we fight and conduct wars. This is about lethality, meritocracy, readiness, war fighting, and accountability. And I'm grateful that President Trump has bestowed this opportunity on me. This process has been a very good one, despite all the noise on the outside. Had a great interview with Megyn Kelly yesterday, and will continue to answer questions specifically to senators, who are the ones that deserve answers to every question they have. And in every office we've stood in, we've welcomed that opportunity. It has been a great week. It's a process that's ongoing, and we look forward to finishing it.
This is how you win. That's how you win a nomination battle. Don't go belly up. Don't hide from reporters. Don't talk to reporters. Tell them what you want them to know and carry forward.